Hello anybody and welcome back to Mega Man 9. I am Mr. Devious, or just Deeb, and in the last episode we started the game and took out Galaxy Man. And in today's episode we are actually going to move on to the next Robot Master, Jewel Man. So in the last episode, I got a chance to talk about a bunch of stuff regarding the Robot Masters, how this was a return to the franchise after, so many years, and just Mega Man and Bass being the most recent game in the series, and I got cut off just as I was about to go into Galaxy Man stage, and I was talking about how the game, when it was first announced, everybody pretty much knew it was going to have this retro 8-bit style, and that was an interesting point. A lot of people loved it, a lot of people hated it, thought it was lazy on Capcom's part, thought it was just a nostalgic cash grab, and, well, that might be debatable for Mega Man 10, but for Mega Man 9, I think that this is clearly a project that had a lot of love go into it. Mega Man 10 had some of that too, but it felt a lot... Well, we'll talk about Mega Man 10 if we ever get to Mega Man 10. So that is kind of the history of Mega Man 9. It came out, it has beautiful music, it has great levels, great bosses, just lots of charm that a lot of people thought Mega Man 7 and 8 seemed to lack. And it was a good return to formula. So, yeah, that's about all you need to know. And this is actually one of my favorite Mega Man games. It's up there with 3. Those two, this and 3, are my favorite games. 2, I know 2 is the big fan favorite, but it's not my favorite, it just isn't. But here we have some cool puzzles in Jewel Man stage, and by puzzles I just mean platforming mechanics. We got this cool momentum-based platforms. The cool thing about Mega Man 9 is that even though it's in the retro style, with even an option to turn on flickering, it can do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do on an NES, particularly with the palette and some functions. Like, I don't know how hard it would be to program a swinging platform with momentum on the NES, but it just looks like, it's cool. It's a cool little thing. And here we have a rock monster. You don't want to be near the walls when you jump over him. If you look at the rocks falling from up above, you can kind of tell where he stops. So he's in the third one from the right. He'll hit the ground, and when he hits the ground, you don't want to be on the ground because it will stun you, and you'll take a hit, and it'll suck. So he's all the way on the right. You dodge between his rocks, and here he comes down. You want to get off some preemptive shots, and that is our checkpoint. Mega Man games will typically put a mid-boss of some kind around the checkpoint, or at least a big enemy. Not always, but it's a sometimes thing. Those enemies, when they're all shuttered up, they don't take any damage. I really don't know the names of Mega Man robots, aside from the classic ones and the famous ones like the Mets and the Sniper Joes. These enemies do a surprising amount of damage, and here we have one of the most frustrating enemies in the game, this little green thing. That must have caused so many players so many deaths on their first playthroughs of the game, particularly in stages that start them off at right the beginning. Now, Mega Man 9 is a difficult game. It has a lot of fair but hard platforming, and it has a lot of kind of platforming, because if you look up there, you got spikes, and as you know, spikes are insta-kill hits, and Mega Man 9 does have a few moments where it just seems like it puts in those very tight squeezes and if you die, you lose a lot of progress, and I'm not a fan of that kind of game design. So we just swing that around to the sides and jump through it. I actually really like that platforming puzzle. I really like it. It's a cool idea, and I think it's pretty great. And we are getting hit by stuff that we don't need to get hit by. Friggin' spiders, no! Now, in the last episode, I took a pretty dumb death, but I'm already up to like 4 lives. 0 counts as a life in this game, so I am grateful for that. And we're getting good bolts. This is a big enemy. Mega Man Classic games usually like to position a big enemy outside the boss door, and that is this game's. If they touch you, they do tons of damage, but here we have Dr. L, which signifies we're at the boss, as well as these sparkling shutters, which are really cool. That was really dumb, I'm sorry. Dr. L is in Dr. Light, because if you remember, these are Dr. Light's robots, and he is presumably being framed. Normally that would be a Dr. W, but this is a very elaborate setup. Now, Jewel Man, if his shield touches you, it does a lot of damage, but every time you jump, he jumps. So that's a good, helpful thing to know. I'm gonna try and do the bosses without their weakness, is what I'm going to do, because I want to kind of teach their patterns. I could just go in with their weaknesses and kill them really easily, but I actually want to try and display some skill against these guys, because most people, with some exceptions, there are Robot Masters that are difficult even with their weakness throughout the series, but in Mega Man 9, they are exceptionally weak to their weaknesses. And here we are just dodging between them, as you can see, it is not easy to do. But I think we can do better next time because I didn't have a lot of health and I took some stupid hits in there. So I think that I will be able to do this on this life. If nothing else, I do have some reserve of lives. Now, usually in Mega Man games, the first time you play, you'll go to a Robot Master stage, pick one that looks interesting, and then when you get there, you do the stage, and it's like, okay, cool. And then, usually, the games always start you off with about 3 lives, depending, but usually the 2 lives are enough to get you to the boss, and then on your last life you'll typically die against the boss because it's usually not enough to learn its pattern, unless you get lucky and get the weak one or the easy Robot Master, but this is usually how Mega Man games go. And it's not necessarily a bad game design, but I mean it's not, it's interesting, it allows for experimentation, but you definitely want to pick up some lives along the way, and that shouldn't have been low enough to hit me. Jewel Man is not an easy Robot Master, but he does have a very easy pattern, if that makes sense. Like, it's easy to get his pattern, particularly once you learn that he jumps when you jump, so jumping over him is just kind of a joke. Now, here we get between 2, and we almost got him. Now, it's also classic in Mega Man games to have a boss rush at the end of all the Robot Masters, so I'll probably use their weaknesses there. And that is Jewel Man dead. That's another Robot Master down! Now, as the Mega Man series went on, they started running out of ideas for abilities that Mega Man could copy from the other Robot Masters, and one popular one that seems to keep returning every couple games is a shield ability. And this is the requisite shield ability in this game, the Jewel Satellite. It's also one of the cooler ones, and it's pretty effective. It'll deflect most shots, and you can throw it and it does a ton of damage. The shields are actually vary from game to game in usefulness, and that's a cool thing, that even though it's functionally the same item, it can differ so much from game to game. Now that we've taken care of that, what would you think jewels would be useful against? Think about that for a moment as I drink this sip of water. Surely we can't throw them into a tornado, we can't smash them against rocks, although that might seem like it might work. Bees, no. Jewels against the Splash Woman, I'm not even gonna go there. And I'm not throwing them into lava, so really that just leaves plugs, and I guess if you shove a jewel into an outlet, you can't really plug anything into it, so this joke is done, and we're going to Plug Man stage. Note that I am doing the weakness order, even though I'm trying to fight the bosses without their weakness. So, I just think it's something neat to do. I also wanted to do this stage fairly early because this stage actually has a lot of bolts throughout it. So there's something that I want to pick up. Now here's a return of a classic enemy in Mega Man that usually appears... It's a classic Mega Man enemy, it infinitely spawns, and they're great for grinding. They can make some tough areas, but they can also drop a lot of pickups, so they're easy to restore on, and usually the game designers will take advantage of this in areas where you need a certain power-up or something. By the way, we couldn't have gotten that bolt. If this was Mega Man 3 or a number of the other Mega Man games in the classic series, we could actually slide under that tube and get it, but Mega Man 9 removed the slide ability, so we don't have that. It also doesn't have the Mega Buster ability. Now, I actually haven't shown off the boss moves, even though I kind of should have, and I'm aware of this, so I'll try to show that off throughout the rest of this episode when they become opportune. Now, Plugman stage is the requisite... Oh, geez. Plugman stage is the requisite, disappearing block stage, also known as Yoku blocks. They actually have a name, and I know this from a fan game I played, Mega Man Unlimited, but we're not talking about that, so I'm not gonna do that. Yoku blocks are typically one of the most difficult obstacles in Mega Man games. They're not impossible by any means, but they're usually challenging enough to be frustrating. And there we go over some spikes, and we get ourselves an extra life. Plugman stage does have some of the nastier jumps in the game, but overall it's not too hard. And then we have these false Mega Mans showing up, and they're just kind of whatever. And you typically with these you have to stand around for a moment, get an idea of what the pattern is, and then jump on them. Now these Yoku block puzzles usually like to make you stay around for like at least a full round, so you can get around. Now these spike balls are immune, or these electricity balls are immune to most weapons, but the black hole bomb sucks them right up. The black hole bomb is actually one of the most useful weapons in the game for absorbing certain enemies. It can't suck up big enemies, but most small ones will just be drawn towards it and obliterated. So I'm going to use it again because I don't want to have to deal with this while I'm platforming. I just do not like enemies like that because I want to get the pattern down. Again, this section is intimidating and it is easy to die, but it's definitely not impossible. Now, as I was saying, Plugman Stage does have a bunch of cool stuff in it, which we can get if we have the Rush Coil. The Rush Coil is kind of funny in that it negates the need to do a lot of platforming puzzles. Like this section right here, you would have to platform up there to get that stuff, but with the Rush Coil, you don't even need to bother. And you might say, oh, I'm cheating, but really, am I? I mean, using the Rush Coil is more obvious to me than anything else. I mean, maybe they designed the puzzle before they decided to put in the Rush Coil as a default item. Maybe they were going to give it to you after you beat a boss, as is typical of many Mega Man games, but, well, whatever the reason might be, I don't think it's cheating. I just don't. The Black Hole Bomb is also good for dealing with enemies like this, and it can provide you a little bit of cover while you're right here. Now, if you pause the thing while the Black Hole Bomb is out, you can actually get it back and do another thing, because you can only have one going at once. That being said, it's hard to set it up as a defensive perimeter, because when you switch over to a weapon, you lose it. Jewel Shield is great for just kind of walking through enemies and killing them, and especially for grinding. After a while and taking enough hits, it will wear out, I think? I'm not sure. It's great against one-hit enemies, though. Against enemies that take more than one hit, though, you're gonna have some problems. And here is a good example of a room it's useful in, because of these guys. And now we want to get up there, and as you can see, it is not a nice jump. You gotta get the timing just right to get up here and get your extra life. And you want the Jewel Satellite, otherwise you're probably gonna take a hit from those guys. Now once you're up here, you got a whole bunch of these electricity balls coming. Usually if you just stand right over here, you'll dodge them all. They'll just go down the ladder. But I prefer to just take care of them like that and feel good about myself for being clever. Now we have a full energy life bar thing, and we are up against the door to the boss. So yeah, we defeated that door. Friggin' door. And we are gonna go into the chamber of the boss, Plugman. Plugman is one of the more difficult bosses in this game to beat without his weakness. Possibly the most difficult one, but no, I wouldn't say he's the most difficult one. I know who my most difficult one is, and here we are against Plugman. Here's how he fights. He'll hop around the field, and then he'll shoot a couple of plug balls through the air. You can jump over them once, and when they're above you on the ceiling, they'll drop down. Plugman himself is kind of slow and not really much that difficult to get around, but he can be pretty tough to avoid in and of himself. But when he jumps around, you can get around him not without too much difficulty. But as you can see, there are a lot of opportunities to hit him. Some Robot Masters like Jewel Man, the problem is just getting, and Jewel Man and Galaxy Man, the problem is you don't really have many opportunities to hit them. Plugman, you have a lot of opportunities to shoot at him, but he does a lot of damage, so it balances out. And I almost got him and got him. Excellent! And with that, we are down another 2 Robot Masters. We're gonna jump up in the air in front of the snowy TV. Look at all these busted TVs. No wonder he was upset. He couldn't watch anything. So what power do we get from Plugman? We get a pink jumpsuit. Magnificent. Absolutely fabulous. I'm surprised we didn't get it from Jewel Man, but there it goes. So it goes. So with that, we are gonna go into save. Not stage select, we're gonna go into save. And we are gonna save on a new file just in case this recording doesn't go through. I'm gonna be careful about that because I am playing around with a new setup. You might notice that my mic is new and that I do have a capture card, as I mentioned in the last episode. So this is just a couple, and I'm doing these episodes back to back, so I'm just making sure that everything's gonna go smoothly. Maybe I should make sure the first episode works first, but I'm just overeager and wanna do these. They're fun. They're just fun. I haven't LP'd in such a long time. So yeah, we are down 3 Robot Masters with only 5 to go. But I digress. That is enough for one episode. And if you'd like to see which Robot Master we're going to take on in the next one, then I just hope to see somebody then. Bye-bye!